So, should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah, let's start with that. I can go. So, welcome to our first episode of a podcast that we're starting. My name is Lissy Erdis. I grew up in Jamestown, Pennsylvania. I graduated with a sports marketing degree. I lived in Jamestown for most of my life. I've gone through Erie, Pennsylvania, Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. I currently live in Alpharetta, Georgia. I've worked in marketing most of my career, and I have had the absolute delight to be the sister of Stephanie Erdis.
Oh, that was so nice. I'm Stephanie Erdis. Also, the absolute delight, best privilege of my life is being the sister of Lissy Erdis. Should start off by telling you I call her Melissa. I'm one of the only people that does call her Melissa. So Lissy, and Melissa are all the same person to me. But yeah, super excited to be doing this podcast with Melissa. So a little bit about me. I also grew up in Jamestown, Pennsylvania, in the same house as Melissa. I have a couple different things that I studied. Broadcasting was one of them, so kind of excited to be behind the microphone again. Also studied leadership and ethics and political science, a whole bunch of things. And that landed me at a couple different universities to start off my career. I was at Thiel College in Greenville, Pennsylvania. I was at Chatham University in Pittsburgh, and then Shippensburg University in the center of Pennsylvania. Now I work for a nonprofit. I've been there a couple of years, so lots of different background and experience to pull from for folks that may have questions about some of those things or may want to talk about some of those things. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there and be like, yeah, these are things. Oh, I have a cat too. So I'm a cat owner, parent, fur parent. He will probably be the subject of more than one conversation on this podcast. So I will leave it with that. My cat's name is Cinco. He's right beside me.
He could co-star in The Tiger King. Like, this cat is huge.
He's hefty. He's a big cat. He's got a big personality.
Yeah, to say the least. So a little backstory on why we started a podcast. Steph told you that she's political science major. She's always been excellent at public speaking and communication. I work in social media currently. I've worked in marketing for several years. Don't really love to talk about myself, but I absolutely love to talk about Steph. Driving home a couple days ago and listening to a podcast, and I thought, we could do this. So here we are. We bought microphones and we're going live. So instead of going into a whole bunch of Steph's microphone's almost as big as our cat.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going into boring details about ourselves, because we could kind of do that forever, but we really want you to get to know us. And so we thought one of the cool activities we could do is to describe each other. I think that's an authentic viewpoint into who each person is. We're biased. That should be our disclaimer. We both really like each other. But I'll start to talk a little bit about Steph. She's a lot of things. She's most notably my sister, which I claim very proudly, but she's a friend, she's a niece, she's a cousin, she's a coworker, she's an advocate, she's a lot of different things. So I'm going to describe her mainly as like her personal life, like who she is, and then specifically like who she is to me. And so as a person, through my lens of seeing her, she's very kind, she's loyal. She has your back. If you're her people, she has your back, whether, it's her closest friends or a coworker or all the organizations she advocates for. She's also very deliberate in her pursuit, whether it's advocating through work, through faith, through really anything, through family, through being a sister. She's very deliberate and purposeful, organized, and just a true leader in a lot of that. She's an adventurer in like the true state of the word. So I call myself an adventurer, but guys, I need like a hotel and shower. all the time. And so when I talk about adventure, she was going to go on like a week-long hike without showers. Unfortunately, 2020, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not sure, but 2020 had different plans for her this year. I do not go a day without being able to shower or go to the bathroom in an actual bathroom. So she's a true adventurer. She's always up for, for fun, cool things. I'm more constrained and have a lot of requirements in my adventures. I find her very authentic. Like who you meet is who she is. She meets everyone, where they are. Great listener. She also, and this is probably hard for both of us to talk about, but she has this gift of gab that I don't have. So she's going to be great at this. I'm probably not going to be so great. She can hold a conversation with literally anyone, someone on a bus, a new coworker, someone passing her on a jog. I can't and don't do that.
I'm really surprised you didn't bring up all the conversations we had in our 20s when I was like at the bar with you and there was like a random stranger and you're like, please stop talking to that person. Do you know him? And I'd be like, he's my new friend. What's your name?
Yeah.
Like John,
Yeah.
Joe?
I
Matthew?
multiple times, and it wasn't just in our 20s, had to pull her away from a long conversation of probably not the best company. Didn't know how to politically correctly say that, but yes, she can strike up a very in-depth conversation, and it just goes to her ability to have this fluid conversation with anyone and connect to literally anyone, which is not something I have, and I love seeing that in her. And specifically when we talk about like my sister, and I know she luckily feels the same way, every single day there is a point in the day where I'm like, oh, I'm so glad this human is my human. And pretty much anytime we talk about our parents, like they've done a lot for us. I'm so glad they created her for me. Selfishly, I think they created her for me. Because for me, she's just confidant, super sympathetic, empathetic, just a voice of reason. I can be a little bit more hot-headed and spur of the moment, knee-jerking reaction kind of, and she's very much more calm and thoughtful, and she's always been that confidant for me. I also have a funny story, because if I say this you won't understand it, but she's the boss of me. When we were growing up, she didn't really want to have a sister. She wanted to have a puppy, which is funny because I don't know if she's ever actually had a puppy. She got a sister. She threw herself on the bed when they were creating it. Like she didn't want a sister. And then I came along and she realized she could boss me. And here we are many years later. And it was to a point that in my early like 1 to 5 years, I didn't really speak a lot. I believe I even went like my mom was trying to figure out like if I could. She sought counselor on like what's wrong with this kid, and they're like, she's not broken. She doesn't want to talk. And then like we realized that like I didn't need to talk. When my mom asked me what I wanted for lunch, Steph answered. And she knew. It wasn't even like she was being like pushy. She knew. She took care of it. She took care of me. She still does. So when we refer to that throughout the podcast, Steph's the boss of me. It's just how it is. With all of those descriptions together, I'm super lucky to have her as my sister, but how she treats me is also how she treats everyone that's in her circle and even on the outliers of her circle. So I can't say enough about what kind of person she is.
Oh my gosh, that was so nice. And that was so sweet. And you wrote some of it down.
Yeah.
It's like you took notes. I took notes. Mm-hmm.
No.
Kind of. So we're going to start because I'm excited to introduce you to, but we're going to start with that story because you weren't around for it. I was. I'm the oldest. So this is Stephanie. I'm the oldest. So I was about 2.5 and my mom was pregnant, but I didn't know because I was 2.5 and I was busy running our household. And so I thought that the room that I was helping my dad paint was for my dolls. I was like, oh, my parents are so cool. They got me this huge crib for all my baby dolls. And then when they told me it was an actual baby, I was a little bit in shock. And I did say that I wanted a puppy instead of a sister, but I didn't know what it was like to have a sister. And so Melissa comes along about Christmas time. From the very moment, I was like, "Oh, you're my team." Like this is team Steph and Liz, and I needed your help. Like you arrived just in time because I'm not sure. We have amazing parents, but I wasn't always sure they knew what they were doing even when I was little. So I was glad to have someone to help me raise them. Melissa arrives right before Christmas, and she was born with only the confidence that someone that is born the same month as Jesus can have. Like from the beginning, she like waltzes into the world and she's like, I'm here. The party can start. I'm ready. Please take me to my people. And like instant best friends, instantly was like, well, how about I just take care of this baby? There's pictures we'll share with you at some point of me feeding her when she was little and all kinds of adventures we have had over these decades. And that's one of the reasons we started this, so we could share them with you. But I think for Melissa, the thing that really stands out is her self-assuredness. Like whether she's faking it till she makes it or not, you would never know. It's like, well, this is what I'm doing and I'm doing it because I want to. And the rest of the world can just live with it. Just excellent person to have as your friend. When we were younger, like if Melissa Urtis was coming to your party, it was a party. If she wasn't coming, then whatever. But just really the kind of life of the party, but not in a way that was like crazy, just in a way that was like, this is, I'm a ball of excitement. I don't know. A ball of excitement seems an exaggeration.
When I choose to be.
True. When you choose to be. Melissa's an interesting combination of introvert and extrovert. So, she is correct that she did not talk for the first 5 years of her life. She didn't need to. I had it handled. I don't know why anyone thought it was a big deal. And honestly, our mother didn't think it was a big deal until she went to kindergarten. And she was like, oh, Steph won't be there to talk for her in kindergarten. She'll be in 3rd grade or 2nd grade. So like, we got to figure this out. So yeah, absolutely. Melissa is super thoughtful in her relationships, in her career, in her business. The world's best gift giver. Like, get excited for the gift giving episode because Melissa has some tricks. And I've been on the receiving end of that for a long time. Likes to be on the cutting edge of things, like really trendy, really wants to communicate a positive message to the world, which I very much admire, especially, even looking at this really hard year that we've had as 2020. This has just been positive the whole time. And everyone crashes, everyone has a bad day. And that's why we have each other. That's why we're here talking to you to help people through those. But just still remaining super positive. Like, her TikTok videos were hilarious. Like, my friends were calling and being like, oh my gosh, your sister's so funny. She's a comedian. I'm like, I know, she's so funny. Like, everyone loves Melissa's TikTok. But just this genuine like sense of humor, this wanting to make people laugh, this like wanting to engage people in the positive and like making people feel like they are their best selves and that they can reach their best selves and all of it. Just so lucky to have seen you grow up over these last couple of years, as if I wasn't growing up with you. I mean, I was also growing up, but just to have that shared experience and it's such a gift to have you along this journey for life with me. And so excited that I get to talk to you all the time and just, bask in the glow of your greatness. Did you like that? That was part of my note.
That was a mic drop, and you have a big mic, so yeah, it's bigger than your head. No, that was great. I think both of us really described each other, and I think you brought out some interesting points for me to even hear, like the positive. I wanted to note that this entire podcast, no matter what topic we talk about, we're really going to focus on positive. We're not going to go polarized conversations. We've been there enough in 2020, and the roller coaster of the ups and downs. So like, I'm not always positive, but like I've really focused on the last couple years because what you put into the world, you get back. And so I'm working on that and growing. And I think you even making the note that the last several years have really transformed, I think, and being very self-aware and trying to grow and being able to do that together, especially with everything that we've been through, has just been the absolute key to where we are now. This podcast would have sucked 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that has always been so encouraging for me when I'm talking to you, or like, because you're the person I call when I'm like, oh, this sucks. You're also the person I call when I'm like, oh, this is great. But like, you're very buoyant and like, it doesn't keep you down. Like, you may have like a bad day. And then the next day I'll like call to check on you and you're like, oh yeah, I just got done with a run and I'm going grocery shopping and I'm going to get my nails done and life is great. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yesterday I thought I was going to have to like come down to Georgia and like hang out with you and like make sure you got out of bed. And then you're just like, oh, I'm fine. Like it's a new day. The sun rose today. I'm fine. It's great. That buoyancy is so precious.
I appreciate that. And I do feel like I wake up every day feeling like a badass. And I do. And hopefully that will resonate throughout. Everyone has a bad day. We've all been broken down, and having that person to talk through. And sometimes you just have to say stuff out loud. And I can be like raging, like so mad or so focused on something that doesn't necessarily matter. A tip that our mom would always tell us is like, will this matter in a month?
No, that was so irritating at the time, but it's so true.
I know. Like, whoa, like you're so mad and you want everyone to be so mad with you. And then it's like, let's take a deep breath. Will this matter in a month? Like, how can I work through this at the point it's happening so I can get to that month where, I've learned from it, I've grown from it. But
when I wanted to add, like, before we kind of get on with it, just to add some more to how great we are so that everyone really we're driving that point home. One of my best friends, who I met in college, so met Melissa and I when we were teenagers, she so clearly said, you and your sister are like exactly alike and totally different at the same time. So hopefully that comes out in this podcast too, where we are like agreeing 100%, but also on totally different sides of things. And that will most come out when we talk about travel and packing tips. We agree on none of that.
Isn't that
no comment?
No, I don't have a comment. And I didn't know that was on our agenda because I think we shouldn't talk about packing. But I think and I didn't ever hear that someone said that, but I think that's really true. And I think for people raising young children, whether they be both sisters, brother, the interesting thing I think about our relationship is we are very, very different. But we are so in sync in our pursuit to be like good sisters to each other that it doesn't matter. Like we're our biggest cheerleaders, and that was definitely through the raising of our parents that happened. So I'm excited to dive into those topics and be able to give some tips and tricks of why we're so amazing.
Why didn't we call this the Amazing Sister Podcast? I don't even know how that didn't come up.
I don't know, but I love this. I love this.
Our heads are getting enormous. We need to move on.
Yeah, pretty soon yours is going to be bigger than your microphone.
Nope, never.
So we had this conversation. It came from a text messages. I sent Steph a message that was like, I made it home safe. Let's start a podcast. And she was like, yes. Like that's the exact commentary that happened. And so we've worked through, and she has a very strategic, creative brain and broadcasting background. I'm all marketing. So immediately we were like, well, what is this? What, where, when, how, like all of the marketing tips and tricks. So we first wanted to think about like who our audience would be. It'll probably definitely be our aunts, but like more broad. Like who are we talking
besides Aunt Pat? Yeah, exactly. She might listen.
Yeah. Like who are we talking to? Like what is this content built for? And it's general market, but specifically we want to talk to people who have great siblinghood relationships. Brother, sister, you adore them, you talk to them all the time, like it's a real treasure in your life, and want to celebrate that with us, because we're going to talk about that a lot. But also people who have a sibling, brother, sister, and adore them, love them, great family member, want to grow that relationship. We've already hit on it. We're going to talk about like some things that we learned growing up that put our sisterhood and the value of that and the responsibility of that front of mind all the time. It's a muscle that we flex all the time. So we're going to talk through like why that is so purposeful in our life. And then also individuals that don't have siblings. They have, great cousins, great friends, but they don't necessarily have that sibling relationship. Or it's even harder to talk about, but someone who has lost a sibling. We are creating this to welcome you to ours. We love having additional sisters, additional brothers. We have many, you know who you are. So you get to join this fun little conversation. We talk to each other several times a week for over an hour, probably. Very long, very diverse conversation. And so we want to welcome you to our sisterhood, our siblinghood.
Welcome our new siblings. We're excited that you're here. So should we talk about what they can look forward to us talking about?
Yeah, I think they're probably interested.
So if you're getting sick of us talking about ourselves, I don't know why, but we have a list of topics that we're going to talk about. So Melissa's going to talk about the first one, which will be an endless supply of stories.
Yeah. So we mentioned that we came from a small town. And if you don't know us and you're not from that town, this town is around 600 people. We've seen a couple different numbers. We should have Wikipedia'd it before.
Probably 630 at least.
Yeah. Probably.
Maybe.
Are we on Wikipedia? We'll have to check that.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll have better stats for this episode. But for us growing up in a small town, it's just interesting. We didn't know anything different. And there are people that grew up in like large communities that don't know what it's like to grow up in a small town. And there are so many amazing things about it. We really want to talk about it. We want you to understand, like, we came from this very interesting, small, supportive community. There's also some very funny anecdotes, I am positive. We could give some shout outs to our small town community members and friends and who we grew up with and how we grew up. It's just very interesting. And it really laid the foundation of who we are today.
When I talk to people about where I'm from, I'm like, go to the middle of nowhere, drive 30 more minutes and turn right. And that's probably my town. Like, it's very small. It'll be very fun to talk about. We're also going to talk about some coming up quickly. We're going to talk about some holiday traditions and hopefully share some of those traditions with you, answer questions about things that you might be struggling with through holidays, anything from how to make a turkey, which Melissa just learned. She made 4 turkeys last week. Mm-hmm.
Did we have to? Yeah, no, you didn't have to tell them I needed a dry run, but I did, and they were good.
They were delicious. I actually don't know that. I didn't try any of them, but anything from how to make a turkey to, the best thing to do when holidays, don't work out the way you want them to work out, how to start new holidays, how to transition holiday traditions to other things. So we're going to dive right into that. This is going to be a very different year in 2020 for holidays for a lot of folks. So we're going to be here to walk through that with you all.
I'm excited for that one. And I think you're right. This year will be different. And we've gone through different traditions. Also, I don't touch raw meat, guys. So that's why the turkey was an issue. I had to have baggies on my hands. It was a thing. Maybe we'll get into it. Maybe, hopefully we don't. So another one that we're going to jump into like right after the holidays is in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, a holiday I like to celebrate because it's me. I'm a Sagittarius. I love just celebrating. I love celebrating my friends. I love celebrating my family. I love celebrating accomplishments. I love celebrating me. And so
you love celebrating Friday.
I know. I do that on my hoverboard every Friday. Like, you just have to celebrate or life gets kind of boring. And so I think it's good to celebrate. I want to talk through, we're going to call it, I think, birthday week. Not necessarily that you have to celebrate your birthday for a week, but how important it is to celebrate in any way, whether it be a gift or an act of kindness, just celebrating in general.
So in our podcast, we're going to talk about some really fun, silly things, but we're also going to go really deep. And we're going to talk about deep things that really are, that we have struggled with, that we know other people are struggling with. And one of the topics we're going to come up with, I'm a cancer survivor. We're coming up on some milestones for my survivorship. And Melissa was the donor for my transplant when I had cancer. So, we really walked that together, like hand in hand. So we're going to talk about cancer and being diagnosed with cancer and how it impacts families, or how it impacts children. So we're going to go really deep into some of those conversations, not right off the bat, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there, and we're going to get there in a really, hopefully, meaningful way.
Yeah, we'll do some fun stuff, but I think what makes us who we are is what we've been through. And we're coming up on a milestone of the actual diagnosis. And we actually weren't together very much that weekend. So we have different perspectives. And I'd love to interview you about, I have questions, you may have questions. Like, I think that although not an easy topic to talk about, will be really informative. I'm trying to understand and hone in on the fact that your scars, anyone's scars, can provide hope to other people. So that is an underlying tone to this entire podcast. And the next topic that I'll discuss is hard for me to talk about. It is about weight loss. I've gone through a lifelong journey. I don't like to talk about it. I don't have before and after pictures, but it's something that I deal with every single day. And I want to get into women's health, why it's, so much different and so complicated. And it really is a daily devotional, deliberate act to, stay healthy and continue to live your life. And so we'll go into that topic a little bit more. It won't be comfortable for me, but I think it'll be important.
I love how we talked about how you made 4 turkeys and your journey with weight loss in the same 3 minutes. Everyone listening is like, well, if she didn't eat 4 turkeys a week, then maybe we wouldn't have to put this on the list. But in all seriousness, we're gonna go there for women's health for sure. We're also going to talk about grief and growth. Melissa and I have had some major losses, some major deaths in our life, as we know so many other folks have. We've walked with friends through their journey through grief, and grief is just a lifelong thing. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about growth. We're going to talk about the really, really sucky parts of it. And then we're going to talk about how to manage that in your life. So far I've had grief and cancer and holidays. Great thing. Who made this list? Great list. List.
I made the list, and I have the fun.
Give yourself all the good topics.
I'm a Sagittarius. So something that we purposely said was our careers and our expertise, but we use that pretty lightly. We're not doctors of anything, but I've spent the majority of my career in marketing and several years in social media. So I really want to dive into a topic and give really good instruction and insight into personal brand and use of social media. What I believe, really displays yourself when you put it out into the world, how polarizing social media can be, how conscious you should be about what you put out there and what it says about yourself. And, when you put something on the internet, it's forever. I hire influencers. My entire day is social media. So I feel like I have a perspective that could be interesting.
We're also going to talk about mental health, wellness, anxiety, all of those things. And that will probably be multiple podcasts when we're talking about, keeping yourself healthy and what that means for your mental health. I'm a meditator, so we might do some meditation on a podcast. Get ready, friends. That's going to be a good time.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm not a meditator. I can't sit still even long enough to do this. You can see me fidgeting, but I've had essentially a lifelong process with anxiety for myself. It's also not something I really ever talk about, but it is something I've dealt with every single day in my entire life. I have insight and tips and tricks of how I've dealt with it, how it has built me into a better person, and how self-reflection can be so important when you're dealing with sometimes a debilitating, part of your life. It's been really important. And in the last decade of my life, I feel like I've really got control over it, a self-understanding, and I've stopped shaming myself for having anxiety. It's just a part of me. It's who I am. I know how to handle it, and I know, how to grow from it. And so we are also going to talk about, we told you some of this is going to be fun. Some of it's going to be super serious.
It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. Be ready.
I
This is
love
the best stuff.
to host a party.
Mm-hmm. She does.
For someone who doesn't like to people a lot, like I love to host a party. I have tips, I have tricks. They have to do with the dollar store, they have to do with the menu. I've done events in my career for up to 1,200 people. I just did a Friendsgiving for like 9 or 10. Like I really like hosting parties. I have some ideas of what we can talk about.
We will have to, this is a teaser. We will have to tell the story about the Poison concert and the party you threw before that. Because that was like legendary. That was a legendary party.
Other legendary was The Amazing Race.
Oh my gosh. That was the best party that's ever existed. I can't wait to talk about that. I can't wait to relive that. We could literally have just a podcast about parties, but it would just have to be you because I don't throw very many parties. This is a party tonight with me and Cinco.
We have a couple parties a week in our conversations, but I like to host them.
Yeah, Melissa's brilliant at party hosting, so I'm excited to hear what she has to offer to everyone. Along with that, we're also going to talk about the art of gift giving. Like I said in my intro, Melissa is the best gift giver. We have lots of giving in our life, and we want to be able to share that. And we know that can be really hard for people. It can bring a lot of anxiety. So we're going to take the anxiety right out of gift giving, give you the perfect list, and you'll be all set. So that's one of my favorite topics that's coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. I love it. Steph's a good gift giver. Our mother was. Like, I think there's some things you can think about all through the year to prepare yourself for it, so you're not panicked at the end of the go time.
Yeah, go time. And we talk, I would say we probably log hours talking about gifts like this time of year, like from Halloween till like 2 days before the Christmas holiday, which is the holiday we celebrate in winter. We probably log like 8 hours talking just about gifts for each other, for other people, what we're doing, what we're putting together, who's buying what, like just all in the celebration of it. It's not extravagant. They're not huge. It's just the kind of art and hobby and all of those things for gift giving. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, Dad's always the hardest, but he's
so hard to buy.
It gives us a challenge for the holidays. We're collaborative in it, and we like to celebrate people. And we're both also pretty crafty, and so it's not about money. It's not a lot about being the most elaborate. It's about, I'm already getting into the podcast. I need to save some material, but it's about really understanding the recipient and reaching into like what they would like and the benefits of the gift.
Well, and I'm cooking up some good stuff for Melissa's birthday, so be ready. So we're going to do this podcast twice a month. We're going to send it out to you all through YouTube at first, so you get to see our faces and hear our voices. We will keep you updated on other platforms we might be sending it out on. We're going to try to keep it to between 30 and 60 minutes because do you really want to listen to us for 90 minutes? We don't even like to listen to each other for 90 minutes. That's a lie. I would listen to Melissa for hours and hours, but we know that you might not feel the same way. So that's our plan for the next couple of podcasts. So look for us on YouTube. We'll be posting at least twice a month. We may give you some other treats too, but that's the plan for now.
We're going to communicate a lot through our social handles. I do most of mine through Instagram at Lissy _Urtis. All of a sudden, I forgot mine. You can give yours, and then I'll go back.
Well, I'll help you out. Lissy is spelled LISSIE _ERDICE. That's how you spell our last name. Mine might be a little bit easier to find. It's woman _in the wild, and in the wild is all one word. So woman _in the wild, Lissy LISSIE _Urtis ERDICE, and you can find us on Instagram. And probably also comment on our YouTube channel And we will, we're just so excited to like answer your questions, talk about the topics you want to talk about, maybe have guest stars. We're definitely going to have guest stars. We have some rock star people in our lives that we're going to bring on and share with you.
Yeah, for sure. And that brings us to an important note. We never told you the title of our podcast. So we are interested in your questions. We are interested in your topics. And now that you got to know us, the title of our podcast is You Should Ask My Sister. Because I know with my friends, with really anyone I know, stuff's my favorite topic. And when we get into conversations, either multiple times I think or I actually say out loud, you should ask my sister. Or I think, man, I should ask my sister, like all the time. And so we're going to wrap up this podcast every single episode with a listener question, listener/viewer. So once we get YouTube up and running, you can comment on YouTube or you can direct message us through the Instagram platforms, which we'll tag in the YouTube with Lissy_Ertis and woman_in_the_wild. You can direct message us questions. Obviously, very few people know we're doing this, so we don't have audience member question to wrap up this episode. And so, in the heart of keeping this very positive, I'll start by asking you our wrap-up question, Stephanie. What was the best part so far of the year 2020 for you?
So I'm going to say two things, one very specific and one super general. Three things. I got to have three things. Sorry. Very general thing is I have enjoyed like being kind of grounded. Like I've really liked being at home. And I felt like I was a lot on the run before. And I felt like I had gotten to a point in my life where I was doing a lot of things I didn't like to do. And so having to like take a step back and sit in my house, which I'm incredibly fortunate to live in a house, to live in a safe place, to have everything I need, to be able to work from home. I've really enjoyed that extra time to read more, to do more yoga. I started walking around my neighborhood. I had never done that or would have never done that before. So I really enjoyed that. Two super big highlights. This summer, I got to travel home twice when you were home with Dad. And like very specifically, like we played golf together multiple times. Usually we get one round of golf in a year together with my dad and Melissa and I. And we played like me and you and Dad played like 2 or 3 times. We played at least 3 times together. And it was just what a gift to be like, you can't do anything, but you can do this, which is really the best thing. So I loved like playing golf with you and Dad, and so great. Then the other highlight was last week. So Liz had access to an online concert with Brandi Carlile. I had a concert canceled by her this summer. I was supposed to see her live. And then we got to meet her like via a platform for like a minute. So that was a huge highlight. So that was a gift from Melissa. I told you she was a good gift giver. That was a gift from her. It was so fun. Like the concert was great. It was so fun to meet her. It was more fun to talk to Melissa afterwards after I had met her for 60 whole seconds. But that was a huge highlight too. So I would say those are like the 3 things. I could go on. I've really tried to optimize some really great things in 2020, but those are, I'll stop there with the 3 of those. What's yours? Yeah, what have you liked most about 2020?
I think I should have gone first because a lot of them are going to feel echoed. Since I've moved to Georgia, it's just been a wild and crazy ride. There's been a lot of work travel. There's been a lot of personal travel. I think I got to a point where like, do I even enjoy, this living out of a suitcase? I was supposed to be gone from Georgia every day, but 5 days in April. That's how busy my April was supposed to be. And it was 100% canceled. And although that, there's a lot of impacts there and change of what I thought was supposed to be my April, it was a reset. You have to focus on the positive to be able to gain the positive. And I was able to take a deep breath. I was able to unpack my suitcases. I was able to go outside and run every day. I was able to, kind of own my own schedule. So I think the ability to, like you said, just reset and pause really made me understand that I don't like running around all the time. I say that being in Florida right now. So
Not being at home. Like you're not at home and you only have spent 2 weeks at home at the most in the last like 5 months.
I called myself out.
Mhm.
But it's on my terms. It's way more relaxed. There's a lot of flexibility. I have the ability to work from home, which I'm very, very blessed to be able to do that. And I've enjoyed, which I did not think I was going to, because I live alone and I am hard to entertain, to be honest.
Mhm.
Exhausting. Um, so I think that was a big one. And you brought up a really good point. I was able to be in Pennsylvania for 7 weeks this summer, which I haven't done since like I lived in that house. I got to spend a ton of just such great time with our dad. I golfed several times. I golfed with him. We cooked meals. It's just not something that we've been able to do. Um, my busy schedule, like not living in that state, I'll always and forever be very fortunate for that time. Um, so those are the two big things for me.
Melissa spent so much time golfing with my dad this summer. He's like been trying to retire for like 3 years that my friends were like, "Is your sister retired?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I need to go back to Pennsylvania and find out." She was just golfing and like drinking drinks
Yeah,
on my dad's front porch for like weeks this
we,
summer. It was great.
we were straight up retired.
Mhm.
Yeah, we would golf at night, have a drink on the porch every night. We got to have several family parties. We had to cancel a family vacation, but I feel like it's been supplemented by all these other blessings that were given to us. We had a virtual Easter. We haven't had Easter with our family for 10
Oh,
years.
decades. It's
Yeah.
been more than 10 years. Yeah.
And so it just brought in this different connection and the value of connection. I was sitting there coloring pictures for my friends. So there's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of loss, a lot of anxiety, ups and downs, a lot of 2020. But we really want to focus on, what did it bring to our lives and what we're going to take from it.
Good. Yeah. So as we round out 2020, we then decided to start a podcast. So we are glad you're here with us. Send us your questions. We're excited to answer them. And we look forward to doing this with you all. We look forward to all of our new siblings that we're going to welcome into our siblinghood. We're going to open it up for you all. Be ready.
It's a wild ride.
Mhm. Mhm. So I think we're done with our first
Yeah.
podcast. So if you've listened to this for the last 42 minutes, God bless you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Aunt Pat, for listening, or other aunts that may have stuck with us. We will see you all next time. This is You Should Ask My Sister with Stephanie and Melissa Erdis.